that you really want to go to, keep your eye on it because, you know, it could conflict with something, get moved. If you want to add a session, let me know. There's plenty of rooms. You know, it's your guys' conference, and this is really everybody's session. We usually talk a bit in this session. People just interject what their goals are or their concerns, their hopes, their fears for this UDS in the coming release. So I did put a few notes in here. Is anybody here not running Gabi right now? Does anyone here not have it installed? Anybody?
Yes.
Couple? Okay. So Gabi is really, I don't know about the other tracks, but in the desktop tracks, we rely on Gabi heavily. We use it for shared note taking, and then we'll take those and paste them onto a wiki page and link it to the blueprint for that session, and it'll become a spec. So get Gabi. If you want to ask somebody to show you how to use it, just somebody will show you. You'll get the hang of it real quick. It's in Software Center, and it's GOBBY. Okay. Should we? Oh, they're all. Okay. So, does anybody? I have a couple things in here. Does anyone want to interject anything first? Like, who's got something maybe important that they want to make a point, something to accomplish, like writing code, Nautilus plugins. I don't feel like I'm very successfully facilitating a discussion here, which is.
Everyone's just getting set up.
Okay, everyone's still getting Gabi set up. Anyone on IRC? Thanks, Fagan. Too much Fagan's not here. Okay, while you guys are setting up, I'll just get my two issues out that I wanted to talk about. The first was about touch. I'd like to see the desktop make some modest goals to support touch apps better in Maverick. And if you go to the DX track, I think they might be talking about multi-touch and a bunch of pretty cool stuff, but I think there's maybe some stuff that we can do for a user who buys a tablet or, you know, just like a really simple touch device. And we have a session scheduled. We have a blueprint from Lucid that we didn't implement, but other than that, this is something that we need a lot of help with expertise in. So if anyone's passionate about touch, subscribe to the blueprint, fill it in, and etc.
I think a lot of people are passionate about touch, but no one has any touch hardware. So how do we bridge that? How do we test the stuff we're making is touch working?
I don't know.
Buy an Apple with just a single mouse button. Buy an Apple with just a single mouse button.
No, but it's hovering in different behaviors.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Whilst the developers would love to make this stuff touch available, I think that's the blocking point.
Well, from a hardware driver's point of view, this should behave like a single mouse button and like a normal mouse cursor, so it's just a standard pointer input device. But of course, it still doesn't give you the feeling like the button is too small or obstructing something else while your finger is pointing at it. So.
The development environments, for example, something similar to what, and I don't have any experience with it, but what Apple provides for like iPad and iPhone development.
You mean these emulators?
Yeah.
And they work right?
I don't know. I don't have any experience with it. But
Generally, I've used similar ones for Android development, and they have maybe shortcut keys to say for like, well, at least the iPhone one has shortcut keys for emulating multi-touch, like you hold down Control or something, and you say I'm clicking here and here to you know, do the pinch gesture and things like that. So maybe some effort could be done to enhance the current emulators or something to add some of this support.
Development environment.
Yeah, especially when multi-touch is concerned.
I have something to show off.
I want to know Bryce Harrington.
So this is a Dell system that you can get off their website. This is a multi-touch thing, and so you guys are probably familiar with touch hardware where you can, drag your finger around and do stuff. So this has multi-touch.
Wow.
And so this is just regular, pretty much regular Lucid. I have a PPA with some extra multi-touch bits. But the kernel is just pretty much stock Lucid kernel. So if you get the hardware, you should be able to do multi-touch now. There's other systems out there. One thing to be aware of is what manufacturer of multi-touch stuff that you have. This is called Intrig, and there's other manufacturers. Make sure to get USB multi-touch as opposed to serial multi-touch. I made that mistake, but this is a USB one, and so the support is there now. So.
Cool. How do the apps and stuff work with touch? Like, can you use the desktop without?
Sure. Yeah. For single touch, everything works just normally, so you can drag stuff around and whatnot. For multi-touch, of course, that isn't. The applications don't support that.
Right. But
that thing that I was showing you is a really simple Python little thing. There's like hardly any code in it because it's all just stock evdev events and things like that. So hopefully it should be pretty straightforward to add support to it.
Cool.
So hopefully we can get that.
So, is there anything that stands out as being particularly bad with touch currently?
Well, sometimes like scrolling, it's because my finger's kind of fat. It's kind of hard to, sometimes you outline or highlight stuff instead of scroll.
So that's a GTK theming sort of thing?
Well, I don't know if that's maybe just my fingers, but just little stuff. I think as we all play with it a little bit, we'll notice things like that and figure out ways to make it a little bit more precise.
So we have a touch session, do we not?
On Friday.
On Friday?
10 o'clock on Friday.
Okay. Thanks, Bryce. Are you going to be at the touch session then,
Yep.
Bryce? Okay. Did we just reassign the last blueprint, the Lucid blueprint to Maverick, or did we need to create a new blueprint? Do you know?
I think there is one that's probably
A brand new one? Okay.
Well, one thing in the last time that we talked about touch, we talked about different kinds of X drivers.
Right.
And I think these days that's kind of a non-issue. For touch, I think between evdev and Wacom, that's probably all we care about. Everything else is legacy.
EVDEV. And are they all good upstream? Oh, cool.
Out of interest, how does like multi-touch, does it already work with the standard input system in X and kernel, or does that require special drivers to get like multiple events at the same time?
It does require a patch kernel, but we have those patches into Lucid, so it's already on all of them.
So beyond that, it's just FDev.
Yeah.
Right.
And I do have a patch to FDev in that PPA. I don't know that it's actually necessary because it seems to work okay, even when I boot just the stock kernel and stock everything. So I think there are some additional bits and pieces, but I think for experimentation, just a stock Lucid should get you started.
Cool.
So somebody who was asking about the on-screen keyboard implementation. Hey Arna, so do you think that we would do that in the touch session on Friday, or do you think that would be a separate?
Maybe separate, because the issues with that are quite severe. It needs to work with XKB and IBUS to support input method engines for East Asian languages. And currently, I don't think we have any on-screen keyboard application which can do that. So we need to do some severe engineering work to get this working.
So would it be better to extend onboard, for example, to do that? Like, so onboard's used for accessibility purposes at the moment, but surely it's there. Surely we can extend it for what you're wanting to do.
I don't know how it works, so.
Okay, I think onboard uses XKB. I'd have to have a look at it again, but I don't know. We've got it there. I'm just wondering whether we can extend it.
The issue would be it needs to communicate with IBUS. So if you select an input method in IBUS, it needs to change the layout so that you actually get the East Asian layout on your on-screen keyboard, so that you know where the keys are.
Yeah.
And I don't think it can do this currently. So we need some code changes in IBUS to support it, and probably some code changes in the onboard or whatever application we use for that to communicate with that.
Okay. Okay, so do you want to set up a blueprint for that and schedule a session?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, sweet. So some folks put other things in Gabi. So back up to the top. Somebody put in about photo management.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are your? We've been actually talking about that, so we're glad.
Yeah, Shotwell looks pretty nice.
It does.
Yeah. So we've been looking at it. I was pretty impressed. So we were going to discuss that at the application selection one. Do you think we should have a separate session for it, or?
No, I think there seems to be a lot of agreement there that HubSpot is like not going places and Shotwell is going places. And the point that I brought up below that is we could free a lot of space on the CD.
You mean because then Tomboy is the only Mono-based application,
Yeah,
so then the Mono runtime's on.
Yeah, I was talking to Seb, if we're not going to have Tomboy on the panel by default, then it's pretty silly to have it installed by default, because adding it to the panel is, you know, only a very tiny bit less time consuming than going and grabbing it from the software center.
Tomboy, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if we're not having it there, then why bother having it there?
Yeah. I came and sat up when you guys mentioned Shotwell. From the upstream perspective, they're very excited, and I get the impression that they want to work with us and all that kind of stuff.
Don't they hang out in Ubuntu Desktop?
Yeah.
Ubuntu Desktop, don't they?
Yeah, but has anyone talked to them as far as the long-term plan for them is? Because it sounds to me like just like a whole bunch of Google guys who got bored and just write Shotwell for 3 years. I mean, it just feels kind of...
This is what I remember.
Is it too good to be true?
From Guadec, which is almost a year ago.
Right.
So from Guadec, their basic plan was like, create this awesome thing in Vala, become the standard, and then I think they were planning like, okay, now that we're everywhere, can we build a business around it? Kind of like, almost like Canonical's approach with Ubuntu. Okay. So that's what I think they were. Does that ring true to you?
Yeah, it sounds right.
So,
yeah, it's just, my concern is that we had Gthumb, then we switched to FSpot, now we're going to switch potentially to something else, and then maybe, I don't know, it would be nice to just pick the right one. Because now I've noticed Gthumb upstream has also gotten a lot of new activity, and all of a sudden it's a pretty compelling alternative now as well. So
Gthumb has basic editing, like cropping and rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes it better than I have known.
Yeah.
Should we maybe, I think this is going to be one of the main topics at the application selection for the desktop one.
Okay.
George, how well do you know the Shotwell guys? Maybe we should let them know that we're like considering it, and
I'll ask them to.
Yeah, because if they're like, don't do it because
right,
we're not, you know.
But for this cycle, I'm gonna talk to them about getting daily builds and more into the archive. They're running their own PPA and that kind of stuff, and generally speaking, they're maintaining their stuff pretty well. So.
I mean,
yeah,
it's not crashing all over the place or anything.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to change this to and save space by not including the runtime on CD. So I don't want to. I would prefer if we don't get wrapped up in this like anti-mono hysteria and all this stuff. So,
yeah, this is purely pragmatic.
Yeah, so there's pragmatic technical reasons. I know I wasn't. So if I just edited a little bit of language that somebody put in there, just not because I thought that the person had those intentions, but just we should just be careful not to get wrapped up into that flame war.
Yeah, definitely.
So from the pragmatic sense, what happens with Ubuntu One Tomboy syncing if we're not shipping it by default? Do they move to like a more click here to get Tomboy thing on their website? Yeah.
Well,
we have the Ubuntu One control panel. We don't install bind with the Firefox syncing thing by default. But you get a button which says click here and it will install it, and we can presumably do that with Tomboy as well. It'd have note syncing, you go, you don't actually have a notes application, click it and get it. But the assumption is you'd be using Firefox anyway, and therefore you might have bookmarks. You can't have been using Tomboy if you never had it to begin with. So note syncing is a lot less compelling if you have no notes. So I would personally like to keep Tomboy.
And you try to use Gnote and use the Windows GLib library?
I'm not sure about how well maintained Gnote is, especially going into the future, how well it will be maintained.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of like it was, look what I can do, and this is neat, and it's kind of nice, but I don't think it's
demonstration.
Yeah.
So just say, look, this is possible.
He dumped it, and then someone else picked it up, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I think Fedora's shipping it.
Ongoing maintenance there is on that.
It seems to be
one-man band,
decently well maintained.
You're right, okay.
But
is there anything else? That's it, isn't it? Right, you've got Tomboy, you've got Gnote, you've got the GNOME sticky notes thing. Nobody uses, I don't think.
Somebody says there's one in Evolution. I don't know.
Really?
There's an Evo Notes, but who uses that?
I know nothing about that. You said it there. I don't know anything about it.
Tomboy using the REST API it's a really cool thing. But I was also thinking maybe I hate to say this, I was thinking like it wouldn't be that hard to make a note-taking application that just uses desktop couch directly. And then you'll get all the syncing and everything built in. There'd be like a high level of simplicity.
I agree with that, but building a note-taking application, the Tomboy people have spent a lot of time making it so notes are nicely formatable and things like that, and that's important. And we won't want to lose that. Building a new one from scratch, it's trivial if you just give people a GTK text entry in a window. If you do more complicated.
You can give them a code view. Code view. Then we'd be done. So yeah, just put that in a window and slurp it out and stuff in a desktop couch, and you get free syncing, and you're done.
It's worth thinking about. Saying, you know, we don't do a Tomboy, we're going to reinvent it from scratch ourselves.
Yeah, I know.
It seems like a lot of extra work.
I'm being silly, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like necessarily all the Tomboy features would be required to have a. And it's not like we're going to take Tomboy out in the backyard and shoot it in the head. It'll still be available. People who want it.
That'd be worth thinking about. What we actually want out of the notes application. How much stuff in the Tomboy build.
But Ryan has a point. If it's not on the panel by default, other than our geeky users, I mean,
like what you said about you have no notes to begin with, so it's not compelling to have a sync case. You have no notes to begin with if it's not on the panel. Like not being installed and not being on the panel is effectively the same thing.
Yeah.
What the decision to take it off the panel was because you don't think people use it? Or?
It's never been on the panel.
Yeah. Never been by default.
Oh, I probably went Tomboy first thing I did after
I think you've got to run it from the menu first, and then you get the notification thing.
So now it'll be
now
it'll be Software Center of Tomboy is the first thing you do.
So Tomboy definitely won't be installed by default.
No, not definitely. We're just totally brainstorming and riffing right now. We have a formal decision-making session.
There's another way to solve that, like that problem is put it on the panel by default, right? I mean, I recognize that
they've done a lot of work on the startup.
Installed and nothing on the panel is the same thing, but you would go two ways with that, right?
Yeah, Tomboy takes a long time.
No, he's been.
I'm not advocating.
He still has a ways to go.
What you brought up.
Yes.
It took like 2.5 seconds to load.
Oh.
Yeah. You're correct. Well, that actually gets to another thing that I put here. So one of the just slightly insane person wrote a piece of software called Simple Scan, and we included it in the last release, and it really changed my viewpoint about the way we should be approaching the desktop in terms of just like starting with the presumption of extreme simplicity and learnability, and then letting people elaborate functionality from there. And
just an opinion. Don't think we should go down the path of rewriting a bunch of apps. That's more apps that we maintain. And if we need notes, we should use Tomboy. And if there's a simple configuration of it, if we think it's too complicated, then we look at a simple configuration.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily going to suggest that we rewrite something, just not necessarily include it by go down Ryan's suggestions. Like let users add it if they want it, but start with that.
Yeah, I think Tomboy, like even the funny thing about Gnote is that the Tomboy developers are like, oh, okay. I sort of noticed that it got a lot of attention all of a sudden. And it seems to be, as time goes on, it's well maintained. It's the note-taking app. I
Tomboy is?
Yeah.
It's getting
So certainly,
upstream development.
Oh, yeah, and,
Yeah.
Sandy's very responsive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good upstream.
So my idea was
You know,
stupid.
I
but I
like you to do a Tomboy online syncing thing, so there's going to be lots of other people using it.
Okay.
maybe you
Fair
could
enough.
con Sandy into like using CouchDB as the native backend store.
We talked about that quite a lot. And the problem is that at the moment the backend's not abstracted at all. The whole code base assumes you can just go down right to a file. And what they'd like to do is abstract it out, but the thing is just takes those, and then you can plug in any backend you want, but that's quite a lot of work. If you know, if an angel came down from the sky and gave them swappable backends, they'd do it tomorrow.
And are you that angel?
Okay, well, if we're sitting here,
The plugin, and they assume the nodes were in .local share.
Yeah.
The code is abstracted, so we could just add a backend to just save the stuff. But the problem is with the plugin.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be hard at all to make it right to CouchDB.
okay, so a few minutes ago we were saying that we're going to make a whole new note-taking application. Why not just have someone invest some effort into doing the necessary work on Tomboy?
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, we weren't saying we were going to make a whole new.
It's just the first session. We're just finding our legs.
My point about Simple Scan was more just the approach of like keeping the desktop and the apps that we add to a minimum, so everything's comprehensible to users. But that we have this wonderful thing called the Software Center, so when people need more elaborate functionality, it's available. So I think Ryan's approach is sensible. Just it's not. You can add a note-taking app.
And maybe this fits a bit with the opportunistic programmer thing, that if we make very easy to make specialized tools, people stop needing to have in the same app all the functionality they might ever need. Maybe.
CLI tools?
Evidence has bindings now, and you can make so sophisticated things that Evans itself cannot grow because it wants to keep it simple. So people can do their own stuff in Python using those bindings, and you don't need to bloat everything.
Interesting.
It's another way.
So sort of steer the desktop towards like people basically writing sort of what other platforms might call macros, but
related to that.
More elaborate stuff.
Shouldn't it be better? I know I'm from outside, but maybe it's an idea. Just to try and keep applications to have a single concern, like I hate to say this, but like the macros has done, where you just have email application, and then if I don't like your default email, I can chuck in another email application. But that because they have the same backend, and that's what macros is so easy to program to. It's like I've got a contact API, and it doesn't matter which application I'm using because it's using the same infrastructure. I can swap my applications. Let's say I don't like this one, I don't like the evolution context, I put something else. I have no migration needed. Tomboy, same thing. Let's say I don't like Tomboy, I like Gnodes, but they're using similar backend or the same backend. It's not a problem. So that you can have a pick and match, kind of peekaboo stuff, and let people start playing around their configuration as a whole. While if you give something like evolution, or which is too similar to Outlook for my taste, where everything comes in a big block, as I said, you have a lot, but you don't have to do everything well. Like I would say, evolution is great for emails, but I'm not a big fan of it in the other areas it touches. So maybe try, because you have desktop touches, a really good technology. Try to, like you were doing with Quickly, and you had the cool widgets. Start doing simple APIs that say, here we give you something that you can work with for a calendar. And then you can build your application very quickly for a calendar, because most of the stuff of the calendar we've already given to you. And you just make a nice UI that matches what you want. Or here is an API for context. Do whatever you want with it, and then you have a contact application.
How hard would it be like how accessible to his point is it? Is the REST APIs like so your data to get to that, I guess, Tomboy data that's in your cloud right now, like hard? Yeah? Because it's really easy to write to desktop cal.
It's not too hard, but Tomboy's REST API is not designed for you to do on-the-fly access to it. It's designed for syncing.
I see.
So if you built something else which talked to the Tomboy API, then what you build is something which stored its notes locally and then synchronized them. It's not designed for something which can pop up and just do all of its access to notes on the server.
Boo. But the, I mean, not boo, is well, good for what it was, but it's unfortunate that it doesn't fulfill his thing right now. But the contacts that you guys have done,
Yes.
the desktop couch does fulfill his points.
Yeah, and to some extent we have that with Evolution Data Server. When you write your emails, at the moment it would be perfectly possible to write a mail application that talks to Evolution Data Server. No one's done it, but it was possible.
That's what I was
It's
thinking.
Angel, isn't it? Angel's an alternate evolution shell, which is kind of network oriented. In the archives at the moment. It's kind of broken, but it's basically...
Oh, you mean Angelier?
No, it's not Angelier, it's Evolution Express now.
Oh,
it's Evolution Express?
Yeah, it was Angelier.
If I want to develop for Windows,
It's
I go to
totally
an
different
FDN
session.
and I filter everything.
The light version
if I
of
want to develop for macOS, I go to the documentation. I go to I want to develop for Ubuntu. I spend a week. I choose some API. I believe it might actually do what I want. And then when I swap to desktop coach, it's like, damn it, it really doesn't work like that, and I have to rewrite everything.
Do you want to answer him, Ak, or do you want to respond?
You are not the first person to raise this concern.
So we have a to-be scheduled session on it. So what he's saying is, like, if you're an application, if you guys really want to start, I don't want to start talking about application developers because we only have 20 more minutes left.
Yeah, exactly.
But we should have. Yeah, so later, like, we want to pick a standard set of stuff. I'd like to see if we can convince the manual team to maybe add another manual to their. This is the first they're hearing about. To Maverick, that's for application developers, and that we do just what you said, like say like. Use this for persistence, use this for this, use this for that, and just have an end-to-end book. Here's how you get it on the Launchpad, here's how you get it in the software center.
We really like that. That'd be excellent.
We've got plans that I'm going to talk about sometime later in the week for like an HTML5 online support website, which is going to be basically a sort of like a moderated wiki which takes all the content from our stuff and content from the community and content from upstream, docs team, everywhere. Formats it really nicely, and you roll out the paragraphs, the little feedback widget appears, you can edit, comment on, change suggestions and stuff. And there's going to be like an Ubuntu Learning Center, which we can have a whole entire section of the site dedicated to how you can contribute.
Well, so we're thinking about application developers. And if you like want to write a new app, like
we need MSDN.
No, not MSDN. MSDN is actually insane. Like MSDN is like one of the biggest websites in the world.
I mean, like the idea.
It's got references to everything. Yeah, right. But we need a place to go, which just shows what we think is the right stack to get started in. Not that it's gonna you're gonna be on rails that you can never get off, but that like you can see like on Ubuntu you use desktop couch for persistence. Oh, on Ubuntu, you typically use Python for your application programming language, PyGDK, etc. And then just make some presumptuous choices all up the path. And then after you write your first app, then of course you might go start exploring around and stuff. But I was thinking it would be cool if we had a developer website, and then also you could print it out as a PDF, just like the manual, so that you can read it on the bus.
Yeah, because of course, if we use, depending on what we go for the source format, LaTeX or DocBook or whatever, we'll just have versions that can be compiled into printable manuals.
Do you think the manual community would be interested in partnering with some of the developer community to make a manual like that?
Yeah, there's a session, I think, later on called, I think it's called the Ubuntu Contributors Manual. And the original idea was for this sort of thing.
Right.
So that would be the session.
So what do you mean by contributor? Because I'm wondering, I want to make sure we're talking about the same things.
So I reckon you could have like, if you're interested in application development, you go to this particular place, and then it has really easy instructions on how to get started using Quickly or something, using like apps URLs, that sort of stuff. And perhaps we could have like create example apps and stuff like that, and then it'll be basically a step-by-step process with a fairly gradual learning curve to get people doing stuff, making applications quickly and having fun, to bring them into developing applications.
So then, like, if you wanted to know, like, oh, how do I fix this bug in Tomboy, that would be a different place that you would go, right?
So yeah, it'll be all in the learning center, like in the contributor section, how to fix bugs.
Would be a different path.
A different section. So, but that's just a website side where you could go direct to like topic-based stuff if you want a direct thing. But then we'd also have the book if you wanted to actually have a physical.
I think the book and the fact that you can publish it shows that you, like, that's what's one of the cool things about the manual, just demonstrates that it's somebody's thought this through, because you can actually run off a book that's end to end. So if we had like an application developer documentation session.
Okay, who just did that?
What happened?
Someone
deleted the
entire
Control Z.
Yeah, someone needs to undo whatever they just did in Copy.
Yeah. Everybody hit Control Z in the Bobby document, please. It wasn't me.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
The new guy. I didn't mean to dime you out in front of everyone.
Can't read anything now. Okay. I'm gonna save this.
Sorry.
It's okay. It happens every time.
Come to the Etherpad session on Friday.
I blame
me.
Untested Emacs mods.
Okay. So while we're on the topic of application developers, maybe we should bring up some software center plans that we want to discuss while we're here. So one of the big things that I want us to figure out at this UDS is how you get a new application that you've written, like, photobomb, cough, cough, onto like the current stable release, right? So like, shipping new software every 6 months was a really big deal 5 years ago, right? That was like really compelling and new, but now people are writing apps a lot faster and they're a lot smaller and stuff. So let's say I finished Photobomb today and I wanted to get it to Lucid users. The way I would have
Universe, or
I don't know, like, so let me just finish my thought. So then, like, I'd have to put it in a PPA, and somehow people would have to discover that PPA, copy it in the right place, do all this stuff. I want the desktop in Maverick to move to a system where apps in some way get vetted. Like, I don't want it just pandemonium, but apps in some way get vetted so that then they're discoverable for the software center, even if they were written after the stable release ships. So I think there's technical parts to that, which I actually think are not going to be as hard as like the policy parts to it.
What's wrong with backports? It's not in Software Center now.
But backports are taking piece of software from the new Ubuntu version and backporting, and speaking about like app developer in the white, writing their stuff and pushing
and
to
you're
users.
talking about things that aren't necessarily in like main or universe, and so backports wouldn't necessarily apply.
It takes you a month to develop that. It shouldn't take you 6 months to get it in. And even the backports will.
We always have a development release, right? And you can always upload the new version of your software to that. Well, okay, maybe not always, barring freezes and things. And I mean, I thought this is the problem that backports is supposed to solve, right? You should be.
No, but we don't want these millions of applications in Ubuntu because most of them are.
Okay, if you're talking about you're talking about things that aren't going to go into Ubuntu at all.
Like there are forms on Ubuntu.
Or they need more vesting time to figure out that we're going to support it in Ubuntu. But as a developer, you want to get it to your users.
Yeah. Well, no, I think they would go into you.
So if they're already in Ubuntu, then it's no problem to put them in backports.
Right.
But if there's a separate problem if
you
don't want to put them in Ubuntu at all.
So it's like a technical thing. So like I don't think we want everything in backports to automatically show up. Because a lot of stuff in backports is to like support like super highly technical people. So you go in and you check the checkbox and then you pick what you want. Because, we don't want people like, oh, there's a new Chromium.
Yeah.
And
a whole new evolution or something.
Yeah, we really don't want that, but it might be a good technical solution. Just like maybe each of those packages, we could say, you get it into Universe, and then you can throw some bit that makes it show up in the.
A software center is going to have ratings and reviews, right? And So, no.
Not intention.
No?
Not intention. 11:04 though, for sure.
There is a session I believe I saw about making things more granular. So right now, it's either all backports or no backports.
I guess my even if it's not, I guess my point is that it seems like for stuff that people are, applications that people are doing quickly and getting out there, there's some element of crowdsourcing the interesting ones that we want to show people and highlight in Software Center, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about ways that we can leverage the community and make it really lightweight to subscribe to those applications that are popular and people think are secure, whatever, whatever criteria people want to use to sort of say these are interesting things that we think users would want to get, but understanding that it's sort of this other channel of applications. I think that's the way. I mean, it seems to me that that's the way you want to kind of think about it, is to make it really lightweight to provide them as lightweight as a PPA is, but with the discoverability that comes.
Yeah, I'm looking for the. I don't know what specifically the session is, but that's similar to what Jono's proposing. So Jono's proposing that like you get into your PPA and then you submit it to some community body that then vets it for things like it's not malware. It's not just an ad. It's free and open source software. It installs, it uninstalls, that kind of thing.
Could we integrate it into Launchpad so when you hit a button on your PPA, like submit this to something, and then they appear in like a list of
a queue to be reviewed by everybody.
By somebody, and then that body basically gives it a priority or something, depending on whether there's other applications of the same type and how you their decision, and then the queue just gets packages into Ubuntu as
and then you have to figure out
the more you can automate as far as checks, better, because then what you can do is you can push that button and say, I'd like to get this, into Software Center, and then you can run a bunch of automated tests, and at least somebody who's evaluating it can say, well, at least it builds, it installs, and it uninstalls.
Right. Now it's worth looking at and verifying some of the manual things.
Or even more possibly, you would get immediate feedback. You still need to do this and this and this in order to get it approved.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, people don't want to write an application and then have to attend meetings and all this other stuff just to get into Ubuntu. It needs to be fairly automated, so they just hit a button and then they get an email a couple of weeks later saying congratulations.
So I think this would be a really big deal for application developers, just fun little things that people throw out and like inspire you to do it more, because you could actually get users. And I think it would be a big deal for users because like after you install Ubuntu, there'd be some freshness to it. It'd be worth it to look at things. But I think we could do it really badly and
could we have a new to Ubuntu section in the Software Center as well?
We could. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, we could just for people to actually see these new applications that are coming in, we could have a new to Ubuntu section as well as the featured stuff. So the featured stuff features what's in there already, and then there's new stuff that comes in via this process.
Yeah, I don't know what the UI would be, but something like that. Something, or like the start page could always show like. So Ryan, I see you're like wheel spinning. Are you thinking about the same topic? Or?
Well, first of all, it seems like leveraging the existing PPA Launchpad thing is such an obvious no-brainer that it's amazing we haven't done it already. It's a really, really good way to go. The other thing I was thinking is in regards to namespacing. Like we have a lot of very popular community-maintained PPAs that release more recent versions of packages that are already in Ubuntu. So would we have some kind of system to deal with these? Like if you want to get a more up-to-date GNOME shell or something, can we direct users at that, or is this only going to be for things that absolutely are completely disjoint from what we're packaging?
I was thinking about that, and we should talk about it. I'm not sure, because I was thinking that it wouldn't be a mechanism for like later versions of things that are already in Ubuntu. Like it's like not.
Okay, so the problem with that is that if you do that, then you're actually, by packaging, say, GNOME Shell, you're crippling the authors of GNOME Shell in a way, because you prevent them from doing their own thing.
Wait, say that
But
again?
wouldn't they get, they're in Universe and they can just update it in the stable release.
Yeah, but like it's really the mod queues that are responsible for that, and the software developers upstream don't feel that they have the ability to do this. They don't want to go through all the approval processes.
To make a PPA?
No, no,
Or
no.
just to make it show up.
Yeah, like actually update it in the official universe.
It just seems like you update, you install GNOME Shell, like all kinds of things can go wrong, and it just...
Right, so my thing is, if we're saying that we allow third-party software developers to easily put updated versions of their software into Ubuntu, that you can install them by this mechanism, but it's only available for packages that are completely disjoint from what's in the official distribution, then in a certain way the official distribution packaging something for you is limiting you in a way.
Right,
because it prevents you from doing
cost,
this.
that night flexibility.
And then that's really bad, because then people are like, well, do I want you to package me? Like, maybe I don't want you to. That should never be a negative thing.
Yeah, but there's a difference. Yes and no. I'll just give a counter example. So in Python, right, a lot of people want to get into the standard libraries, but they don't realize that there's in a sense, a downside to that, right, which is exactly the same thing.
No, that's quite different though, because that's just something that comes with maturity. You have something that you want to be flexible, you want it to be mutable, and then you reach a point where you're like, okay, this is mature, I want it in the standard library, I'm going to guarantee that the API is stable, for example. Whereas with software, new versions of it, you're always adding new features. It's something that's moving along all the time.
I mean, you've only got 6 months that you have to worry about.
Yeah, I was actually thinking for this, like if you updated your software, once it got accepted, it would have to get rechecked. Like, so if I put photobomb in and people got photobomb and then like it fixed bugs or added features. Like,
right, but presumably this process is going to be a lot more dynamic and certainly a lot less latency than waiting for a universe update.
Right.
The one thing that you could do is have some connection with official PPAs for that project in Software Center. So it's usually hidden. You never see it unless you sort of...
Right, this is what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the official updated GNOME Shell PPA or something like that.
Yeah, maybe we need a related but different project for like crack of the day type PPAs. Or maybe not even crack of the day, like GNOME Shell might not want you installing every day their latest, but they might every couple of weeks say, you know what, this is a
we already
build
have
that
this
we're ready
sort
for.
of well-recognized PPA that's maintained for GNOME Shell. And
right.
if you talk to GNOME Shell developers and you're like, yeah, this isn't working, the first thing they say is, well, the one that's in universe right now is hopelessly out of date, so go install this guy's PPA.
Right.
So what you're talking about...
But there's also kind of a difference between... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what you're talking about is sort of like, you know, what makes web apps so appealing is this like quick time to market, right? But there are other distros that already do sort of like a rolling release. I forget what OpenSUSE calls theirs, but they have like this rolling release where they just keep making basically new packages and pushing them out. I think Fedora also has a rolling release where they're just constantly pushing out packages, and we don't really have that, right? And this is what you're sort of talking about here, where you just keep updating certain packages and you just sort of, while you still have these stable releases on install disks, you also have the ability to sort of track like this rolling release,
right,
where packages are always being updated.
By no means do I think that this should be the default. I think having a stable distribution,
right, of course.
This should be like you have to take explicit action.
But it's nice to have this idea of a rolling release, right? Because you have like quicker time to market for development apps and things that, you know, change a little more frequently or on a different timetable than what you ship.
What if we just made PPA searchable for the Software Center, from the Software Center? Would that solve the GNOME Shell?
Only with... well, you're really getting into quite a mess there, then, because then you're knocking out packages from the distribution for favor of these things that you've searched for in PPAs.
That you can.
Which
is so like GNOME Shell is interesting because it doesn't uninstall.
Yeah, but maybe if there's updated versions of things that are on the CD, you could start getting into trouble.
Like I just uninstalled Chromium, installed a new version of Chromium, which is busted, or WebKit. And now Software Center doesn't work.
And if you're going to do that, you probably want to anoint certain PPAs. So,
right,
you know,
right.
Industrial PPAs. I think if I stick around on the
Interesting.
PPA, it probably shouldn't appear equally with...
Yeah,
like maybe we could
that's
have like
what I was getting at.
power
Like,
user area or a techie area where like that's the same functionality, but is.
I think in this case, Shell's kind of the exception. I think when we're talking about getting these things quickly through the Software Center, we're talking about things like photobomb and stuff. Not we're gonna a whole new desktop environment. You know, so I kind of like marketing this more towards you want to write an application to do something quickly and, you know, your cool little desktop app, not.
I was actually
Use an entirely
thinking that
new
the
GUI,
policy
you
would
know?
make it like, it's for, like, you know, one of the lines would be, is it an application?
Right, exactly.
And if it's like a library or something like that,
Exactly.
then GNOME Shell might be in a...
Yeah, but you also have the issue of really compelling applications that depend on some library that's not yet packaged.
Yeah. But that's always going to be a problem.
So you do need support for libraries, possibly as just as dependencies of things that...
Well, or compelling applications that need updated libraries that are in the default
Right, and then that's
existing
like a
applications.
Yeah.
So we probably don't want to go there. So we probably want to keep it limited to...
Just the application and not packages, not affecting packages that are...
Right, not replacing libraries that other apps already
It could be a policy thing that you have to depend on the applications in the stable release or something.
Yeah, the libraries.
The libraries, so not the applications.
Right, or you can add new libraries that you wrote that your application uses.
But again, then you're punishing people in a way for having their stuff packaged by the distribution.
Why is that a punishment?
Because if your application that depends on a newer version of something that's in current Ubuntu, you don't get to use this magic mechanism. So that would encourage me to make sure that my library is not in Ubuntu.
But then nobody would use it then.
Well, no, because they'd be able to find it through the thing, right?
Just as easy.
As an app developer, I'm thinking, I don't want it in Ubuntu because then I can't update it anymore. That's the core thing that I was getting at.
But,
when I raised
but it's a
it.
trade-off because you also want to be installed by default.
Yeah, you want to be used. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we're not talking like installed by default. We're talking like Universe or
Yeah,
lots of other things depending on the same library.
So I don't. I mean, I think Ryan's. I think you've touched on a really. This is my point that like the policy is going to be hard because it really disrupts what Universe means, what PPA means, and it's something that we can potentially do very badly. So.
Is it the conversation so far sort of contrasting Universe and the new world of PPAs? Does it help at all to not think about those as two different worlds, but think about it in the same world? Like, is this just a change? Could this just be a change, a big change, granted, in what Universe is and how it acts? Like, is this just an expansion and opening up of Universe? Not a new thing in addition to Universe, but a fundamental change of what Universe is.
That could be possible considering we're going to be eventually moving to archive reorganization. So Universe as a sort of a term for referring to all those packages is sort of going away. Like it's more like unseeded packages.
But the thing about Universe, Luke, don't you like as a community member sort of say things that are in Universe like the community supports? Whereas I'm not sure we'd be saying that with like these individual new apps would be like the developer to support it.
And isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah.
Don't we have a vast number of packages that are pretty much straight Debian imports?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's going to be totally different from this PPA oriented way of doing things.
Yeah, Monty would just require us to completely drop the notion Ubuntu because if you open up Universe for everyone, then suddenly you lose all kinds of access privileges and like all kinds of quality bars to Universe.
Yeah.
That concerns me a little bit.
I also think we want to talk about like what kind of support is implied, and I really think we want these apps to be like, you know, they're vetted. We don't think that they're going to destroy your system, but you have to go to the developer. We're not, you know, we as the Ubuntu community aren't going to support this. Like in the same way that we do feel like we support GNOME Shell, the Universe version of it, right? Like we're like, well, there's a bug in a package that GNOME Shell relies on, the GNOME Universe, like we feel compelled to fix that bug because GNOME Shell's in Universe. Whereas if it wasn't, we'd be like, well,
it's not really our thing.
Yeah, it's.
I guess I'll put out one counter argument for this penalty idea. That 6 months goes by pretty quickly, and there's a downside to having a lot of people use something, you know, the newest version, because you may not feel like it's totally baked, and you want to have, you know, as an application developer, if there's some coordination with the developer, the upstream developer, to say, yeah, okay, we understand that this is going to be shipped in 10.10, and I'm not going to have an opportunity to get the new version out to the widest mass of users for 6 months. I can live with it if it's this version, right? It's X.Y.Z.
That's true.
and understanding that the people who are hardcore users, who are really going to give me valuable feedback, and are going to be sort of nice about it all.
Sort of like Gwiver does that, don't they? Like there's a Gwiver PPA, and I see people tweet about the daily build of Gwiver all the time, but then Ryan doesn't have to worry about everyone's hammering that because they're all in the version.
When you get down to it, installing from a PPA is not that hard.
Yeah,
I mean that's what we do now. Right?
For us,
and that's right,
and probably for people who want to try to get their shelf too.
And that's going to still be available. So.
Yeah. So it's almost like PPA Universe, which is this big jump, but then we're just putting a little notch in between almost, and for things that are appropriate.
Something like that.
It's still a PPA. It's just more accessible.
If you're in Universe and you're bound to accept the penalty, which is not terrible, I guess.
And the benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think this this review and vetting thing is going to differ from the process that we currently have to get packages into Universe? Who's going to do it, first of all? And won't it just be the same thing that we do anyway for Universe packages now?
I think it'll probably be somewhat less strict. I mean,
I don't think
Universe packages, they have to link properly and all this stuff.
They have to do what, sorry?
Link.
Oh yeah.
And you have to fix all these trivial packaging errors. I guess there probably won't be that much focus on it, so much as not doing obviously bad things to your system when you install it, kind of stuff.
Yeah, it should be somewhat easier to review them, I think. I would hope. It's just
I think the focus should be less on packaging policy and more on not wrecking people's computers.
More on the user benefit. I think this will be a lot more I think a lot of the work that we do in Universe is actually for other not core systematic developers who are contributing to the free and open source platform, whereas this focus would be on opportunistic developers writing apps on top of it.
Well, they still have to learn how to package an application, right? Or someone has to do it for them, which is probably a big hurdle.
Didier does it for them in 2 words.
This should make policy compliant packages, which can slip straight into Universe without any problems.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree, and we might want to ask the question shouldn't they really be it goes both places? It says
no, because the thing with Universe is going to be supported for a long time. You might make some wonderful application, in a year's time it might be dead. And so it's still a useful application people want to use, but we don't want to put in Universe unless it's going to be it's got a long-term position.
And also, you'll never make an automated tool that will generate perfect packages every time.
Okay, so we have 2 more minutes, and we have a whole session on this. So thanks for everyone's input on that. I can tell this is going to be fun. This is going to be really cool. But if we pull this off, it'll make Ubuntu really cool for a lot more people. And, so any other topics before we... Anything? Oh yeah, they've been talking up there. Is there anyone talking on IRC who's not here? Fagan.
Yeah, I think most of these people.
The Q quick stuff isn't here.
Is there anyone talking on there who is here?
Yeah. Humphrey.
Okay. IRC people, if you're referring to someone in the room, you can just tell the UDS-Kokobo account so that it shows up highlighted for us. That way we won't ignore you as much. Oh.
Okay. All right. Thanks everyone. Rock and roll.